Alright, we're going to get started with our second portion of the RaceDay scoring demonstration. So you guys could take a seat and we'll get started. We briefly went into the race dashboard and I'm going to dig into it a little bit further. So again, this includes, this includes the connector, running clocks, recent reads, raw reads, importing and exporting, and then our report autosave status. The idea with the dashboard in general is that we want to make this in the future a little more user customizable. So as we add more components to this page, we want to eventually make it so that you can pick and choose which items you want to show here. And we're doing some things like allowing you to show and hide certain sections. So you can click in the top right the recent reads for a certain location that you may not care about, so that you can hide the reads at the start, but still shows you the reads at the finish. These running clocks. So this is a component that allows you to view any of the clock times for any of your races. So this uses your computer clock and the chip reads that are coming in. So make sure you have your computer clock synced to your device times. Most times we'll do that anyways, but this just allows you to view any number of clocks you have running. So you can set up these start times in the score event section of the race setup, and they'll be displayed here. You'll also be able to manually trigger start times for events from this if you don't collect your start times from your chip systems as trigger times, or enter it manually in the scored event setup. In the future, we're also going to support the ability to do wave starts by age group and participant. Right now, just know that we have only set at the event level. So in the future, we are going to do a few things to allow you to group participants into waves or corrals and set start times for them that way. Recent reads. This is dynamically generated. So as soon as reads come in, they show up in this recent reads section for each location. It's a quick way to check that your system is running. Can be used as a mini announcer screen. I had a timer a few weeks ago give me a call and say, hey, I want to start using RaceDay scoring to test it out. I'm just going to set up RaceDay scoring as an announcer window for my announcer to read names off. Can we do that? I was like, oh, we can technically do it. If you're okay with only doing 5 names at a time, it's right in the dashboard. So they used it as an announcer window, and it worked out perfectly fine for them. And in the future, again, we're going to have expanded functionality around leaderboards and recent finishers, but this is just right in the dashboard. So the raw reads, which is that little box in the top right that has like a couple thousand reads, whatever, that's going to allow you to click it and view all the reads that were collected at this location. So basically you can see, or at any of your locations. You can see in the top right there is, it allows me to filter on the streams. So it was collected at my, it could be like you have a chip system at the finish and you have a backup system that you're using. So it could be someone punching in numbers into a spreadsheet, or someone collecting times on an iPad or something like that. So you can filter out those raw reads to see where their source is. And also, most importantly, you can filter on the bib number and the chip number. So you can just, drill down to a single bib and research why specific reads were selected or not selected. So you can see in this view, I have a bunch of undefined occurrences for this single bib number. And then up in the middle, I have 2 reads that were selected. And those 2 reads were like my start and finish time, basically. So all the other ones are called undefined occurrence because I don't have an occurrence on that location defined for that read number. So that's pretty cool. It allows you to see if there's something wrong with your setup that's ignoring time. Import and export utility. This allows us again to import a race from one computer to another. You can either export it straight with everything, or you can export without the participants or without the reads. So that's going to be useful if you want to just do a raw setup file and don't include the participant and chip data. You can also import race definitions from here. You can import these definitions from either other RaceDay scoring systems or the race director. We're hoping other software providers will write exports from their software. So like maybe one day in the future, RunScore could write a definitions file that can import into RaceDay scoring. Maybe AG could do it, maybe others. So that's just we build this all open so that that could happen in the future potentially. That's exciting to me. So this allows you to have an easy way to move races between computers. So report RaceDay status, talked about it a little bit. Basically, it shows me how many threads I'm currently running of autosave. So I have this PDF file that's being autosaved. I could have a text file, I could have a GRD file, I could have an API, results being sent to RunSignUp, I could have things like that. I can pause and start individually. It shows information so I can see if there's a problem with my autosave. So if the file location was deleted or something, it would say, you know, the last time it was run was an hour ago, and you're like, oh no, there's something wrong, you can address that. We added an indicator light that shows how many autosaves are running, so you can view that in the top right-hand toolbar, along with if I'm online and if my connector is currently running. So the second item on the left is participant sync. And you'll notice that we did update the UI a little bit to make them icons, but don't worry, you can still view it, view the title of what that tab is. It's just that's just a hover thing, so now you can. This participant sync section shows you what data you have available to you online. You can pull down to use for scoring. So this one has like what category are you, what time did you run, things like that. So this is useful for custom scoring based on a question response, things like Clydesdale and Athena, things like prediction runs like Bob talked about. So the important part is if you're pulling in data from online sources, you do need to make sure that you save sync settings. This is what sets up the sync process. So as soon as you click Save Sync Settings here, even if you don't decide to pull in any of this additional data, you just need to go in here and click Save Sync Settings in order to kickstart that syncing process. And basically, to be able to pull down additional data, what you can do is type in a RaceDay scoring field name, those empty boxes on the right. Just say, you know, estimated finish time. You could just write in EST fin or something, and then when you click Save Sync Settings, that field, that estimated finish time for each participant is going to be available to you for calculation purposes down the road. All right, so participants is the next section of the app. We can show you how to search for participants here. Just first name, last name, bib number. It all happens in real time as you type in. It filters it automatically for you. You can import participants here from a spreadsheet, and it's really nice. It does a really good job of guessing how what column header should be and everything. So I'll dig into that a little further here. So the search immediately filters the results as you type. You can search on first name, last name, bib numbers. So eventually this search is going to be enhanced because we're going to be adding groups and teams into this. And James is working on this right now, and it's going to be, this participant section is just going to expand to groups and teams. So on the participant section, you'll be able to see the groups and teams listed that they're affiliated with, and you can search by either, and it's just going to be a little bit nicer. So when you click into a participant, you can view them in this way. Allows you to, this is all working in real time. So when you go into here and change something and save it, you'll notice right away that that change is reflected online, which is really nice. It will show in the bottom right any results that have been recorded for this participant. Handy way to troubleshoot a specific person's information. You can see, okay, this person had crossed the start line at this time, they crossed the finish line at that time. You can also delete participants through here as well. Importing, this allows us to import participant data from some other source into RaceDay scoring. We do automatic header detection, so it will try and match as best guess to our internal fields what you have provided in your spreadsheet. All this information is uploaded automatically as soon as you import it in, so really quick. When you add a participant, it just opens up that last page I showed where you can type in the information for them. Actions are different things that you can do with participant data. You can clear out bib and chip assignments. You can fix unknown reads. So when you're importing participant data, unknown reads are just pulled in and automatically quarantined. And in this section, you can address them. So if I have an unknown read number, I'm going to say 4 bib 4891. I can go in here and assign a participant for it by searching for them and saying this is the person that's supposed to be running that. So it allows you to just address those pretty quickly. And here's where you can load your chip cross-reference. So if you're using a system that requires you to import a cross-reference file, so like IPCO or any of those ones where they use transponders, i.e. not bib numbers, you can import them here. All right, so exporting. Right now we just have a simple export to CSV. If you need to manage your data and get it out for something, you can do it here. This is just for data. All right, so streams, I'm going to give a quick overview of this, and then I'm actually going to ask James Harris to come up and talk for a little bit about his design in this and what exactly is going on under the covers. So streams are our way of connecting to external sources. Could be a chip system, middleware, or TCP/IP stream, or a folder that you are dropping CSV files into. So you have like one single stream for your MyLabs toolkit definition. You have one for if you use Chronotrack, a Chronotrack point name, capital START. Most of the time you have Chronotrack points that are similar. It's like I always have FIN for my finish line Chronotrack points. So you just set up one of those for each. Streams, they must be mapped to a location in order to generate scored reads for a participant. So in the race, you can have locations, like a start and a finish and a split. You need to assign which streams are pointing to those locations in the app. Streams can be reused between races, so you could have MyLabs start and always use that same location name in MyLabs timing and scoring, and then just use that same stream in RaceDay scoring to connect to that toolkit export. So yeah, James, why don't you come up and talk a little bit about this?
So it's all about data. And you guys are out there and you can't lose your data, and I just want to spend 5 minutes talking about the architecture of the connector and how important this is for what you guys do. So the connector is something that's been built over the last 5 years. And I'm going to give some technical terms, and then we'll say, why do you care, what does it mean? So starting right from the beginning, it's an overlap I/O design. What does that mean and why do you care? So last month at Vermont, we had 36 different streams coming in from equipment for 3 different courses. A lot of data, high throughput, all being streamed. You got to make sure that you have a design that can handle literally at the same time, 50 different connections coming from your middleware, and that's what has been built into the connector. So it's a very high throughput piece of code. It's actually separated from scoring. It runs in the same process. Why do you care? What does it matter? The reason why we did that is no matter what happens in scoring, if the scoring crashes, window, UI gets hung up and all, you have local on your computer, a high-end TCP/IP server that's actually caching all that data in a local database. No matter what happens with scoring, you have all that data, and that data can be replayed. Later, Matt will be showing you how you can do that. So even if you don't even go back to your original source and replay, you have all that in a local cache store on your system. Tried and tested. We've been out there. This is beta software. You're like, oh my gosh, the most important part of the architecture is getting the data from my middleware or from my stuff. Like, you know the stories and how that's gone, right? This stuff has been used for 6 years. I've worked with every single equipment manufacturer out there. I've worked with Stream Manager. I've worked with MyLabs, all the different versions, Toolkit, RaceResolve, Pico, Trident. This is tried and tested software, okay? So this is something that you can count on, making sure that the data gets in, and then you can replay and score off of that. Third, multi-sourcing. So a lot of stuff that you do, you're going to just be using files, right? And so you have, sometimes you're going to be using controllers out in the field, you got your SIM cards and all, but a lot of stuff you do, you just have this kind of local thing, you're running a line and you're doing your finish line, right? So what we've done with this architecture is you can have all your stuff out in the cloud, and you're streaming that for your splits. But the local stuff can just be all file-based. And so we've done some really neat stuff with local file stream technology. So it's what we call file smart technology. As the file's changing, it's not reading in the whole file every time. Again, about what we talked about, very high throughput, being able to score very quickly, real-time scoring. It's the last change that gets read, and we have that technology. If something goes wrong, Matt will be showing you in a few minutes, you can just always replay the data and rescore. So I just wanted to kind of back up for a minute, just kind of those 4 points. High throughput, multi-lap I/O, why does it matter? Because we can handle a lot of data in a very short amount of time. We've separated the process out and given you a local cache source, so no matter what happens, you have that data. You don't even have to replay it from the middleware. We've given you tried and tested software that's been used for the last 5 years in very big events, and we can give you those references. And we're giving you the support for doing both cloud-based streaming from your controllers and local file-based reads coming off of like a finish line.
Hey James, talk a little bit about, if you can go back, talk a little bit about like if I've got some sort of, I got a question earlier, I've got some sort of, you know, off-the-shelf, no-name brand, you know, RFID equipment, am I able to connect to that stuff?
So most of the time, if you guys are trying to like do something straight with like impinged readers and things like that, you know, you're really going to need to have some type of middleware piece that's going to get that best read into some kind of file, and then you can set up very easily in RaceDay scoring a definition for wherever your file is. So if you can get into some kind of standard file, that would be the real obvious first starting point. The next level would be, again, if you're trying to build your own stuff, building and either emulating one of the known protocols, like from MyLapse or Chronotrack, or RaceResult has a really nice protocol, or you know, in the future we're hoping to maybe even support like our own version of an open TCP/IP protocol. But right now you'd have to either emulate one of those or use the file-based approach.
Do you see us writing middleware at any point in time for off-the-shelf?
Yeah, so we've had a couple vendors come to us from different spaces, and so that's definitely on the roadmap to support like our own version of a RaceDay scoring IP interface that you guys would go to.
Yeah, probably a year from now or something.
Thanks, James. I can't like stress how awesome it is to have James Harris in that software. It's so cool that when we started this project, we already have this huge chunk just done. And that's like the most important part of the software is kind of get chip systems, kind of get the reads in, and it's like, okay, that part's done, let's work on the rest. So that was really cool to be able to have him on the team, and it's really the reason why this was able to get us done as fast as we've been able to do it. So we have all of these different stream types, and you know, we've been supporting and adding more and more support to them, specifically the different types of file imports. And as James said, you can custom write your own file definition import, which is really handy. So if you have some weird, unique system that exports a CSV and some standard definition, you can go ahead and write a stream file type import that allows you to define those column headers in a standardized format so you can use it easily in the future. So this is just all the information on how each of these stream types. I'm not going to go through each of them. Basically, what type is it a TCP/IP connection? Is it a file connection? What port am I communicating on? We use default ports, so like Chronotrack default port is 61611. We just hard code that. We can change it if you want to in the future to open that up to you guys if you have some other port you want to communicate on for some reason. Same for others. This is the individual stream setup. Each stream type has a different setup screen because each stream type is a little bit different. So things that are common among them are the ability to do stream actions, so start, stop, replay, and clear. And then there's also the ability to change all incoming read dates to a specific date. This is useful if you have a system that's out of whack. You need to change all the read dates to today. For whatever reason, it got set back in time or something like that. You can do that here. Additionally, you can adjust individual streams read times. So you could say that we allow this to be done multiple levels. So if you had a system that was incorrectly set for daylight savings, and then one of your crew members went and fixed it in the middle of the race because they thought they were being helpful, big problem, right? But you know, like, okay, between these two times it's off by an hour, and after that, it's not off. So you could here go in and say, okay, between 9 and 10, shift it by an hour and leave the rest alone. You'd be able to do that here. Really flexible, so it's really, really cool you can do that.
I'll tell you another story, really, this true life just happened last month. California timer, goes to Utah, 5 minutes before the race, oh my gosh, everything's set to Pacific Coast time, you had to adjust everything by an hour.
Yes. It's really important that we add this here. So this is our custom file stream for writing your own kind of imports. So you can define a passing format. So it could be bib code, comma, chip code, comma, time, or it could be any number of things. We allow you to define a folder, and that's important to understand. So basically what we do is we map this stream to a specific folder in which you can have hundreds of files. And we consider every single file inside of that as a part of the stream. So if you're going to have like a finish where you have a file drop system from Dropbox writing to some location on your computer, it's going to consider every single file in there. So we allow you to do that way, and you just set your folder path, and then you set your extension. So this is important because you could have the same folder with multiple streams, but half of your text files are a CSV and the other half are a log. And if for whatever reason you needed to split those out, you can do that by using a different file extension on the same directory. Then you define your passing format and your field delimiter. It could be a comma, tabs, or semicolons. When you click into the passing format, what you'll see is it brings up this screen here, which allows you to drag and drop to build a passing format. So we have these options. Ignore, if you have an ignored field in your data, bib code, chip code, date time, ISO date time, date, ISO date, time, and lap number. So you can use any number of these to drag and drop to build a file passing format, and then it just builds out this passing format and puts it into your setup for you. So we talked about this a little bit. This is what James was saying, how the connector software is running a local process. Separate database. If the system locks up, that local process can still be running. So you can replay that data from that process here. You can start it, stop it, and clear out that database from the app itself. So we have this integration with this connector software through this. These are the stream adjustments that I was talking about before, where I can adjust a range of times. And I can also adjust all the read dates to some specific dates as well. Locations. This is where I can define my start, my finish, my split point, everything like that. So I can designate these as start and finish, and that's important because scoring is done based on whether it's a start time or a finish time. So we've hard-coded into it that if it's the start line, we're going to take the last read. If it's a finish time, you're going to take the first read for each. In the future, we'll open that up for configuration on your end. To start with, this is the most commonly used setup, where a finish time or an intermediate time, location, those are always the first read seen, and then the starts is always the last read. We know that there are some unique scenarios where you may not want that, you may need to change it. To ship, we're just going to hard code it in, may open it up if we need to. So this is the location setup, and again, this is like a physical location where I'm collecting times. So I could have multiple streams being poured into this location. So I'll just go right here. You can define if it's a start, a finish, or intermediate split, or a common start and finish type of location. So this determines how it's scored and how it's going to be used in the future. Finish or intermediate split. So basically, if it's a split point or a finish line, you use that one. If it's a common start and finish, use that one. That just changes what settings are available to you on this page. So if it's a start only, you'll see start read settings box show up that says, when is the last time I expect to see a read? So you can enter in 9:30, it's a 9:15 start or something like that. And if you were doing common start and finish, or finish or intermediate split, you would see finish reads after a certain date and time. In addition to that, we have filters around bib ranges and times between. So you can have multiple filters of bib ranges, multiple times between for each location you have. We're pretty flexible with the amount of filtering we allow you to do here. I don't expect you to do too much, but there may be scenarios where you have a location on course where you are only expecting to collect reads for a certain bib range. We do support that here. At the bottom, it's very important. You need to assign a stream to a location in order to collect reads into that location. So the priority 1 streams are the main source of data. And then if you have any backup systems, you could assign those backup streams here. This is basically, like I said before, the primary streams are the main source. And if I have a backup, what it's going to do is it's going to look and see, do I have a read for this participant? If I do, don't even use it. If I don't, go ahead and insert that time and use it as a scored read. So this is nice for using like if you have a manual backup system, you're typing in bib numbers or anything like that. Scored events. These are our ways to organize participants into scored categories. So these are generally like a distance. So for each category of athletes that's competing over a different distance or needs to be scored separately all the time for one reason or another, you want to create a scored event for. Most of the time, it's just distance. So, if importing data from registration, you can a registration provider online. You can combine multiple registration categories into a single scored event in the case that they don't match up. So you have, let's say, 5K and 5K age price category, and 5K no t-shirt category, and so on. You can just filter those into one scored event in our system. So what I want to go through here is just the timing locations. This is important to set your what timing locations are going to be defined as the start and the finish for this event. So you could have multiple locations in your race, like a 8K start, a 10K start, a half marathon start, that are separate physical locations, right? And so you need to tell the application which of those to use for my specific event. This is where I set my start times. This approximate start time could be pulled from the registration API. You would need to set the actual start time, which is like my gun time in Race Director, on each event in your race setup here. You can use the set current time if you want to just quick do a start race now, or you can do that over in the dashboard, like I had showed earlier. So segments are the next section of the app. So basically this is where I can define like laps or different portions of the race. What's unique about the way we've done segments for race day scoring is that it's not like Race Director where you are, you're actually segmenting a race. You're saying that if I do a 2-segment race, it's first half and last half, right? You always have to define that last half as something in if you only wanted the 1 mile split. So with race day scoring, what we've done is you can just define a start point and an end point, and it can be any of your locations. So you may have a hill climb in the middle of the Tour de France today, and they want to time from the bottom to the top. And so you're not going to say, I don't care about the start to the start of the hill climb, and I don't care about the finish of the hill climb to the finish of the race. I don't really care about that middle portion. So I can say, the first time I see a read at the bottom of the hill, and the first time I see a read at the top of the hill, that's my one segment. And then when I do reporting, I'm just reporting that one column of those hill climb times and not the rest of the stuff. So that's a little bit of a different type of thing that we do in race day scoring compared to Race Director. In addition, we have a cumulative distance. So you did this hill climb segment, and it's a 5-mile climb, but at that point in the race, they're at mile 50. So if you set the segment distance and the cumulative distance here, you'd be able to report later on my pace over the climb and my pace to that point. In addition, you can set minutes per mile or however you want to report that there. We give you a few options. Age groups. So this is where I can go in and set up my different bands for reporting and scoring. I can say that these are set to be male or female, min and max age for each. I have a short name and a number of winners, which says I want to say that 3 people get a reward for each of the 8 bands. You can do that here. We have a quick add utility, which is shown in the bottom right here. It allows you to define range size, what genders I am setting up, starting age and ending age. So it gives you a little preview of which ones are going to be generated, and then you click add age ranges, and it fills it in for you. If you do the either genders, that just is ignoring gender. So it's like 19 to 29, no, it doesn't care what gender. 30 to 39 doesn't care what gender. That's what either means. So you can do all 3 of those if you wanted to, and you can report on 3 age bands. It could be like you were the first female, 19 to 29, and the 15th, 19 to 29. Make it pretty flexible in case you wanted to do that. I know that myself and Roger run into that once in a while where someone wants to report gender is not.
Elementary school, where they don't care. They want first graders as the same, second graders. That's a real common one.
That makes sense, yeah. So that's age groups. These can be used in reporting later on when you add in a report type of age group. Scoring, this is what I was talking to you about earlier that starts to dig into the underpinnings of the software and how it's doing scoring. So we have our listings and computed fields at the bottom here. This allows you to view we built our entire scoring on listings, which are the standings for your race, and you can have hundreds of listings. Basically, listings are like each and every single category where I'm assigning a place value. So it could be just my, I have my race and it's just the overall finish list, right? It's just the 1 through 100 places, everybody listed out. So that's a single listing, my overall finish list. But, well, you know, I do like to show my gender ranking there. I like to show, you know, out of all the males, what place was I. That's a separate spreadsheet in our system, basically, that lists out the top males and ranks them. And then the top females, of course. And then we have, oh, well, I do age groups. Okay, well, that's 50 listings because that's the male 19 to 29 as one listing. Male 20 to 29 is another listing. So if you wanted to, you can dig into each and every single listing and view the data there to see how the scoring is being completed and being used in reporting later. The advanced listing actions allows, most of the time, us to import listing definitions. If we want to write a custom listing, we can import that into it. So if you guys are clever and know how to code JSON and how our system works, you could write your own listing generation. So listing, right, that's my calculated placements. So I can go in and write some weird tabulation to say this is my weird scoring scenario based on, you know, the leader's time minus my time plus something else, and manually generate a listing file to use for scoring. We don't expect many people to do that. It's really for us in testing purposes when we're making a new scoring scenario. Computed fields are what Bob was talking about, the ability to generate a new field that can be used. A field is like my name. A field is like my finish time. A field is like anything like that. So one example of a computed field is just my finish time. It's my start time and my finish time. I do the math and I figure out my calculated finish time, right? So that's just pretty easy. But what we have given you the ability to do here is go in and define your own logic based on any of the fields that are available to you, any of the times of day that are recorded for this bid number, any of the registration fields that they have, and do some math and figure something out and put it into a report. So it's pretty powerful stuff. Like Bob had said, he had done it for a prediction run and it actually worked pretty well for him. So yeah, the really cool thing here that I was talking about is you can import using our standard JSON definitions and write your own scoring scenario essentially. Same way you can do it with RunScore, we support that. It's a little bit different format, you have to learn how the code works, but it's the same concepts that you can write your own tabulation algorithm and plug it in here. This is how you build a custom field. And so like this is a field that I wrote that just designates this person as a master. It puts star, star, star next to every person who has an age over 40. Simple, but this is the process of how I do it. I go in and say I have an operation and the operation is greater than or equal, age is the field that I'm working on, and 40. And then when it's true, what do? I print out a fixed value of star, star, star. And when it's false, I print out a fixed value of just nothing. So it's just an extra column in the data that I can use for reporting later. Reports. So this is the main piece of the software, really. This is like, aside from the connector, you're getting that data, and aside from that implementation through the API to get the Christmas, this is where I'm putting everything together that I got, right? This is where I'm building out a report, I'm deciding what columns I want to show, I'm deciding what sections to put inside of it. So basically what you can do here is, these are all the reports that I have for this race. And in the future, what we're going to do is build out some default reports. Right now, you have to build your own. And we're going to just say, okay, everybody wants an overall finish list for each event. Everybody wants age groups for each age range or age group setup that they've done. So in the future, we'll just add in these automatically. But for now, you just build them yourself. And I'll show you the report builder. So the report builder basically lets you put in multiple sections within a report. These blue sections up here are like overall rankings and age group rankings. And within each of those sections, I can define what columns are showing, the order of the columns. I can do a filter in that section. So I can say that this overall section is really like a Clydesdale report. So I can say this overall list of top finishers is, I do a data filter on it, and I can say that only report inside of this section those who have this question response equals Clydesdale. So I can filter this little report section into only of those who are Clydesdales, and it'll report it that way. So you can have any number of sections within a report. So I could do, like using this number of places to show, I can generate like just top 3 Clydesdales. And I can generate top 3 Athenas. And then I can print all my age groups below it and the overall standings below that. In addition to that, at the top you see we have this top finisher categories. And this is your standard definition for, I want to report my top 3 overall, my top 3 masters, my top 3 veterans, and so on. And we allow you to do a lot of configuration in the same way that Race Director does, how to allow jumping between bands, whether or not these participants from these bands should be included in their age groups or excluded, and so on and so forth. So that's really, really handy. So basically, on the left, what you have is the definition for what events do I want to include and what column sets am I including. And this little section is basically putting in a new report section. So when I go and select 5K run, and I select the default column template, and I click Add Overall Section, it inserts a blue section on the right, where I can, it'll have the default columns that I have set up. And those default columns, again, those are the ones that you can change. You can go in and set up a 5K template, you can set up a triathlon template, and so on and so forth. Again, you can reorder all of these, so the columns can be shifted just by clicking and dragging, and the sections themselves can be reordered by clicking and dragging. So you can build your own custom reports here. A lot of people have very specific type of awards report they like to print out for their presentations. They want to show the top 3 male, female, then the age groups, and then they want to show the top 10 each gender or something. You can easily do that in one report here.
And that's savable across events. So that's saved into your report file, and each event that you do, you can just move that over. You
So that, yeah, that's the idea. We haven't done that yet, but that's the idea. Like we're going to do exports and imports, or being able to pin this to all my races or something like that. Yeah. Okay, so this is the app itself. I want to show you quickly what I can do to build a race and import some times into it. So what I'm going to do is just create a race. Sorry, I'm doing this too fast for you guys. If I go into all races at the top, if you go into manage races, or from the app's landing page, you can click manage races. We have the option to import a race from RunSignUp that already exists, or you can just create a brand new race. I don't have an integration for it. It's just a local race, something that I'm going to import a spreadsheet of participant data from. So I'm just going to create a local race. And I can actually publish it to RunSignUp or not. So let's just do that. I'm going to call it my race. So I set up my events. So I'm going to do a 5K run. I'm going to say it's a runner and walk. Start time will be today. And this one I have at 9:20. I don't care about that. I'm just going to say it's a 5K run. This one, it doesn't matter if you use K or miles here. You can change the pace regardless and report it differently. You have to log in. Okay, and it opens up the race for me, which is nice. I've got everything in here. This is my new race that I set up. What I'm going to do is go in and I don't need to start syncing because this is just a local only race, but I'm just going to go ahead and start it anyways. And for this example, I'm going to import participant data from a spreadsheet, so I want to show you that. So I go to participants, import, go to find my CSV, and I have a CSV of data. So basically you can see in this file, it already mapped all my columns for me. Hopefully it does it for most formats. Sometimes you'll have something that our best guess doesn't work on, but for this one, it looks like it did it all perfectly fine. So I'm just going to click this set field mappings, and it will go in and import these 507 participants that I have. All right, so it's been completed. I'm going to go back in, and now I've got all these participants that I'm going to support for you guys. So you can see that little flicker that just happened. That means that the page is refreshing, and it's checking for new data. So basically, that's what I got going there. So the next thing I'm going to do is go to my streams setup, and I'm going to use these simple client streams that I have. So I have this filter. In the case that I have 1,000 streams and I only want to view chrono track streams, that's the one I'm using for this race. So I'm going to filter it just on chrono track so I can get the streams that I want here. So in this simple client, start, I'm going to click edit. I set a name. I like to say start in the name so I know that I can set my point name in simple client to exactly that, start. So I set my stream type to contract and I have my point name set to start. I'm going to change all my read dates to today because that's the date that I said the race was. And I'm going to save it. Same thing with the finish. This one I set fin, so I need to just make sure that when I do my simple client setup, I've got the point name set exactly right. Okay, my locations, I'm going to go click settings and I'm going to set my priority 1 stream to be, instead of the default start, simple client start. And I'm going to collect start reads until, I believe it was 35. Robbie, do you remember? I think these are in the same file.
That was, I've got so many different race notes. This is the one that was at 921.
Yeah, 921. I think it was like 9, I was like 925, that's fine. My finish, it's a finish or intermediate split. And I'm going to start collecting reads after 9:35, I believe is what I wanted here. And I'm going to change my priority 1 stream for the finish to my simple client pin. Okay, sport events. I have a single sport event for this. So these are like basically that was the if you go back, sorry, that was the imported data for event. Now I haven't assigned that to a sport event yet. Now in this case, I just have a single one, so I can just click add sport event, and I'm going to call that 5K run. Do I want to rank people based on their clock time or chip time for this event? I'm going to do clock time for this one. I'm going to include the 5K in the sport event, and I'm going to use this as my default in the case that, I think this is if you don't have one assigned or if you don't know what event someone's assigned to, it defaults to it. So actual start time here is the actual gun time of the race. So I'm going to say it was today at 09:21-ish. I can grab the official start time from my hardware later if I need to.
For those chip systems that actually have triggers and trigger gun times or anything manual, all the connector, all that stuff supported, and it will populate that actual based on your triggers.
So segments, I'm just going to select it and look at it. I don't have an additional segment for this race, but basically you'll see that these are defaulted to what occurrence I want. Now if I had a race where they cross over the finish line twice, you can just set endpoint occurrence to 2, and that's how you score that. Or if you want to, you can also set up additional segments to report the first lap and the second lap. So that's all available to you in the segment setup. Age groups, I'm just going to create some default ranges here. So using this create ranges button, go in and set range size. Just say range size is 10, starting age at 15, and I end at 79. And I'm going to do 5D. So it's going to create these for me. Throw them all in there, and then you can always insert or delete individual age bands if you wanted to. Like, let's say I wanted to create a range of, well, for the kids I like to do a little bit more, so I want to say starting from age, let's see, like 10 to 14, I want to create these 10 to 12s and the 13 to 14s. So it just puts them in at the top. So I didn't put the number of winners in, so I can just manually put them that way there. And the males, there. I'm going to go ahead and save the age groups. So in the background, what you're not seeing is when I save these age groups, it's actually creating all those listings that I was talking about before. So if I now go into scoring, I can go into view listings, and I would see, oh wait, no, I actually have to run the scoring first. But you would see in here, once I start to collect reads, that these new scoring listings are generated for each of the age groups. So I'm going to go back now into my dashboard and get ready to start collecting reads. So I'm going to start out a couple instances of Simple Client, and we're going to start pushing stuff through. So if I go into Simple Client, I'm going to load my controller file, which I have saved. And here I'm going to say, this is my start one, so I'm going to select that. So this is your point name, right? So I already mapped that to a stream earlier, so that's ready to go. Important thing you need to do is set my connection direct socket out. So I'm going to do that and activate it. And this is the default port, don't change that. That's the one that we use for our system to rely on. So my start's ready to go. Oops. Finish is ready. Just a second here.
There's your pen time too, man.
Yeah, I can show my pen time. But this is, yeah. It's in the start one, right?
Yeah.
So in the direct socket out again, I'm going to activate it. So yeah, I can show you guys if you want to in here. My start, I thought it was in the start, wasn't it?
It says connection refused on both of those.
Yeah, I haven't started collecting reads yet. So once I start collecting reads, it's going to open up the connector in the background and start running. So what you'll see is this will switch over and will allow connection to already scoring. So now these are both connected and I can begin to pass reads through. So I'm going to send my start and it's going to stream into here and you'll start to see these reads pop in and then they get distributed into my recent reads and my scored reads for the start. Same thing for the finish. I'm going to pass them through and in just a second here I see my raw reads go up and my finished scored reads go up and my recent reads go. So that's how it comes through. It's pretty quick. We do our best to try and make this UI update as soon as possible. So I want to show you guys quick in here. I can view these raw reads. I can filter on a specific bib, like I had said. I got all these start reads to this person, and then these are the two reads that I selected. At 9:20 and 9:44, that's my start and my finish, right? I can see here, this is my start, this is my finish. So now what I'm going to do is go over to reporting. I'm going to build a new report. I'm going to quick set up a top finisher category. So this is very similar to RaceDirect if you've used it. I'm going to allow an open band that has, let's say, all jumping allowed. I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to add another band for masters. And we automatically set the age to 40 because usually you're just doing 40 plus for masters and priority 2, meaning that if you qualify for open, you should get that unless you are 40 and then you should get that first. So basically it's open is the most valuable category here. And it also depends on how you set your band jumping rules, but I'm just going to save those two and close this out. So these top finisher categories are at the report level. So I can have different top finisher categories with different reports if I wanted to. So I'm going to do a report that's like, this is me and my reward sheet I'm going to give to my presenter. I'm going to include my 5K run, and I'm going to use my default template, and I'm going to add an age group section. So when I add it in, I can expand it, I can move things around if I need to. I can add columns here, so I can go in and look through any of the columns that are available in my race and plug them in. Let's say I wanted to show my, my gender place in there as well, I can do that way. Participant data filters are how I want to filter this data. So by default, we have a chip time is not null and bib is not null. So that's just your defaults. You don't want to report anybody who doesn't have a bib sign. You don't want to report anybody who doesn't have a chip time, right? So that's what we do there. You can change these. You can add additional filters like I was talking about before, where I'm filtering this to only those who are in, let's say, Moorestown, New Jersey, or those who have Clydesdale or Athena and their participant information. So I've already set the award winners, but I'm also going to do, like, say 5 per age group show on this report, and I'm going to save it. So this is my awards sheet. I can click in and view it, and it shows me all of the bands and everything. I think we have a little bug here where the ordering is not correct. They see this female 15 to 24 showing up before the open ones. Things like that are bugs that we gotta capture. So, but it's reporting everybody in here in their correct bands. So next what I'm gonna do is build a new report that's just a basic overall finish list. And what I'm gonna do is publish this to RunSignUp for results. So I'm gonna add an overall section, save it as the defaults, and what I'm going to do is go in here, use this actions item, go into autosave. This RunSignUp API is where we set up our online integration for results. So this is like I had said, this is built Friday. This is brand new code. We're going to clean this up, make it look a little bit nicer, make it a little easier to use, but this is how we do it right now. I'm going to autosave it every 30 seconds. I can adjust the result set title here. I have to select which scored event it is I'm pointing to on RunSignUp, and that's important for results display. And then my pace display, I'm going to do time per mile, and this is my disable result notifications. If I had result notifications tied to this results set on RunSignUp, I may not want to. I'm not going to dig into the advanced options right now, so then I need to click add stream. Be careful, if you click save settings, it gets rid of it, so add stream is what you want to do in this, not save settings. Those little things are things we'll clean up for the UI. So I'm just going to go ahead and click save, and now I see that I have one autosave running. So if I go back, I can view this and see that every 30 seconds I'm running this autosave thread of my RunSignUp results. And the last time it was published was just a little while ago. So I should be able to go on RunSignUp and see these results being printed now. I'm just going to double check my report, make sure I have some finishers in there. Yeah, so Rex was the winner, 1730 or 43. Easy way to get to my RunSignUp race. If I click the title, I click the title of the race in this, and I'm going to go to the website. If I go to results page, we'll see that I've got everything up in here. And it's like your really nicely formatted results. Got my divisions all set up correctly. You can see that I have listed here my age groups and everything really quick. So that's how we do the integration right now. Pretty slick. I'm really impressed with what we've been able to do. So thank you guys so much for coming. Get in touch with me. I want to talk to all of you. Thank you. And just like ask me questions about the product. I'll talk to you about it for hours if you like.
Awesome job to this team. Thank you guys so much for doing this, and I can't wait for December.
Yes.
Pressure's on.